We're based in Portland, Oregon, but we work with customers globally. That's our team. We create custom HoloLens and Windows mixed reality applications for the enterprise. How we started was my co-founder Michael actually was on the HoloLens Studios team at Microsoft before the product was unveiled publicly as a principal lead. I'm going to hand the mic to him and he can talk a little bit about the projects that he worked on while at Microsoft.
Yeah, hello everyone. Good morning. Thank you for being here. Yeah, so one of the interesting things about our company is that we've actually been doing this for 3 years, even though the product's only been out for 1. I was on the HoloLens team building out some of the enterprise use cases. When I first started at Microsoft, the NASA project was underway, and I actually helped write some of the key back-end components of that. Working with NASA was awesome. Then I managed the Trimble project from a development perspective, and we had a architectural scenario where you were basically seeing your architectural buildings in 3D and also at full scale. The Maya project is a Maya integration where you can bring models back and forth between Maya. I don't know how many of you have seen some of these videos? So I was behind all of the videos that are up here, and I was also developing or managing development for the Fusion 360 integration, which was a product design scenario with a Xbox controller.
This is a slide. This mic, can we activate both mics? Have your mic. Oh. We're going to switch to just one mic here. It's a little bit easier. This is a slide I try to show every talk I give about mixed reality or AR or VR, which is this notion of a fundamental shift in the human experience between two-dimensional, these rectangles in our pocket and on our walls over the last 50 years, fundamentally shifting from kind of the observer to the participant in our worlds. When you think about the human physiology, everything we do, everything we grasp in our 3D worlds, the entire body is based on interactivity and motion around 3D environments. And when you look at technology like VR and AR and mixed reality, this technology is much more complementary to the human form, the human position. And this is going to really change, I think, how we interact with technology. There's these kind of two worlds we all live in. There's the digital world in our pockets or on our walls or on our laptops or tablets. And there's this physical world with interactions and relationships with other human beings. What excites me about this technology is that we're really bringing the physical experience and the digital experience together into one environment. I think it's much more complementary to the human condition. And I think we're going to see a lot of profound changes in society and work based on this technology. I want to turn this over to Michael to chat a little bit about the unique characteristics of the HoloLens.
Yeah, one of the things that we made a very early commitment to, in fact, this goes all the way back to my experience at Microsoft, is a commitment to finding the real value of HoloLens. Like, where can you really extract value today from the HoloLens? And this list is kind of the top 5 of those. There are a few others. The first one I think is most obvious. It's experiencing anything in your life that's 3D, actually experiencing it in 3D. In fact, we're showing a future of hip replacement scenario in the Microsoft booth, so come by and see that. That is actually a really good example of 3D in 3D because the human body is fundamentally 3D, and doctors are a good example of never having been able to experience a lot of the 3D nature of the human body in 3D. Second is tell interactive stories using space and spatial memory. We know how to navigate 3D spaces, and we experience and remember our world in 3D. So when you have a story that's actually provided to you in 3D, it's more intuitive, it conveys more information, and you can actually play with that a lot to tell a story in much more compelling ways than you ever have been able to before. So the third one is one of my favorites, virtually monitor and control the physical world. This speaks a lot to the whole IoT movement that's happening. CDM Smith, one of our clients, is looking towards the future of where you operate smart facilities, and efficiency is really important because your clients are paying you for performance. And efficiency comes down to really understanding all of the issues of the physical plant that you're managing. So IoT is a really good example of getting all the data from your environment. It goes into like an Azure backend, and then it provides information back to you via the HoloLens. And the HoloLens can both monitor and control your physical world. So make the invisible world of data visible. So there's a little bit of overlap between that and IoT, or monitoring and controlling the physical world, but it goes beyond that because there's a lot of like FEA analysis where you're looking at stress and wind and other factors. And this is a way to actually experience that data in 3D. Finally, collaboration with shared perspective. So again, we've invested quite a bit in collaboration. And collaboration, there's a lot of opportunity to collaborate remotely with other people where you have a shared perspective around 3D subject matter.
Great, thanks, Michael. Moving on to the next slide, we really want to share with you kind of the top 5 we've seen both on the horizontal and vertical slicing of the market. I'm going to talk about industries very briefly just to be sensitive to time here and try to get back on schedule. And then Michael's going to cover the use case examples, kind of the top 5, what we've been seeing in the industry as we talk to customers over the last couple of years. So I'm going to start with the industry segments. This was an early showcase of the HoloLens, the work with Trimble that Michael worked on while at Microsoft. Certainly it's reflective, I think, of a broader category of this entire AEC market, architecture, engineering, and construction. As you probably all know, there was a downturn in the housing market not too long ago, and I think a lot of firms in this industry are kind of rebuilding innovation funding, looking at ways that technology can transform their business and reduce costs. And we're seeing an uptick now as the economy improves from the housing and construction side on the architecture front. Certainly engineering and construction overseas in emerging markets has been a huge opportunity. And visualizing both kind of in the office these experiences as well as maybe bringing some of this technology on site at the actual building location. Healthcare very broadly applicable, whether that's pharmaceutical or medical devices or patient care. Lots of things that we're seeing in the healthcare market. As Michael mentioned, we have a demo down on the show floor in the Microsoft booth, the future of hip replacement and surgery. Hopefully you'll have a chance to come by before 3 o'clock today and see that demo on the floor. Aerospace and Automotive, organization called SAE that some of you probably are familiar with, has been doing a lot of advocacy around the role of AR, VR, and MR in their industry segments. This is an example of a video from Volvo that Microsoft produced not too long ago. You can see it on their HoloLens YouTube channel. But there's such a broadly applicable opportunity in aerospace and automotive. Everything from down to replacing plasticine clay models, where you're doing these large factor kind of design reviews amongst teams in this industry. Interior component design, reviews, sales. There's so much stuff going on in aerospace and automotive, depending upon that industry segment. Lots of use cases we're seeing in this industry. Manufacturing. This is also from that Volvo video, but I think it's one that perhaps best shows some of the vision work that Microsoft is doing around the role in manufacturing. This is just a couple seconds of a snapshot of a video reel from that Volvo case study video they did. And it's not entirely representative of the full spectrum of what we're seeing with manufacturing, whether it be layout and warehousing, whether that be logistics opportunities, whether that be visualization of layering of components. A lot of stuff going on, and manufacturing certainly has been playing with this technology well before the HoloLens. But from the HoloLens perspective, certainly lots going on in this space. And then defense and public sector. This is a snapshot from Saab Defense Australia. They worked on a sand table kind of battlefield scenario for planning for the Australian Air Force. They were actually at the Microsoft Build conference with us 2 weeks ago. In the next demo room over, showcasing this work that they did. Saab is a global company. Most of you know them from the automotive sector, although largely they have been focused on defense. And in the Australian team, they focused working with the Australian Air Force for this scenario. So with that, I want to turn it over to Michael and have him walk through kind of 5 use cases that we see on a regular basis. Some of this is work that we're doing as well as a company, and just these repeating patterns that we're seeing based on customer interest and customer demand.
Yeah, it's a good point, Raven. I mean, I'm sure you're seeing a lot of overlap already with what Accenture just shared with you and what we're sharing with you. These are very strong patterns that we're seeing over and over again. We see these signals from just about every conversation we have with our clients. In fact, this first use case, collaboration, is one that we've actually made a pretty large investment in. Certainly something we'd love to talk to you more about. CDM Smith is a really good example of this particular use case. They have a very large engineering team that builds large wastewater treatment plants and bridges and tunnels. And what's interesting, and these are things that we learned from talking to our clients, what's interesting is they actually then hand off all the CAD drawings from their engineering team, and the construction team recreates all of them with more detail, which was news to us, but it's actually apparently a very common practice. There's a movement to move away from that model, but that is the current model. And so what happens is there's a lot of mistakes that are made when you're trying to convey that information between the two completely different engineering teams. So they'll have a giant project in the works, and one of the construction engineers will call the problem to the design engineers, and they're talking about these 3D problems that they're having. And you know, they have to use existing technology, or until mixed reality, they've had to use just existing flat technologies like a Skype call or taking a picture and emailing it, and they do all that today. So the scenario that we build out for them, and it's a recurring pattern now across a lot of the different companies that we're talking to, is to enable you to experience 3D projects or 3D works in progress in 3D and have a conversation where you know exactly what you're talking about and know exactly what you're looking at. And it actually helps convey information much more precisely and with way fewer errors, and it can save a lot of money. This is actually somewhat along the same lines. Remote Expert is taking it one step further of, the scenario is that you have a small group of experts that are supporting very large workforces out in the field. And you can't afford for those experts to fly all over the place, or actually, or at least you'd like to not afford to fly them all over the place. And so instead of flying your experts to where the problem is, you make the experts available in a way that actually allows them to do their job well, as if they were at the site where the troubleshooting is occurring. So this is a fairly common scenario that we're seeing over and over and over again. All right, training. So a lot of skills that we learn as people are 3D in nature. Mechanics, surgeons, how to build things, I mean, the manufacturing. There's so many things that we learn as people that are 3D in nature. There's this opportunity to train 3D skills in 3D. And we got approached when we first started the company by, easily 5 surgeons. They found us in the process, like, we need to be able to train in 3D because the human body is 3D. And it was just this really strong signal very early on that the world is thirsting for better ways to train and reduce training costs. So sales. So this is a Stryker scenario. If you look online for Stryker HoloLens, you'll find a showcase video on it. So this is a sales scenario where Stryker sells really expensive equipment to surgeons and hospitals. And the equipment is in the, I don't know what, the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they sell to hospitals, so they outfit many, many operating rooms. And so what Stryker does now is they actually build out entire fake operating rooms in like the basement of a hospital to show off and work with the surgeons to design their operating rooms. So the product and space design. So the interesting thing about the operating room one is that it sort of covers this a little bit because space design is a big part of selling that equipment, but it's a sales scenario. This is more of a product design scenario. And the idea here is that you're designing products in 3D. I mean, it's anything from some small packaging all the way up to bit dams, and you're often trying to make the design decisions based on 2D information. So this is this opportunity to do your design and have collaboration. See, there's a lot of overlap because it's also a collaborative scenario. All right, so to wrap this up, here are just some of the key takeaways about HoloLens and where mixed reality is. So the first thing is that the current HoloLens, we are absolutely convinced the current HoloLens is absolutely a viable product. And we're absolutely thrilled that it has come this far so fast. The second thing is try to avoid just porting 2D solutions to 3D. Commit to finding the real value. Don't just like move something that already exists in 2D. Make sure there's a commitment to real value.
So the other thing we wanted to mention is this is really a phase of early adoption and heavy innovation investment. The ecosystem is very new, especially with HoloLens and Windows Mixed Reality. There's not this software and development ecosystem available today where you can buy off-the-shelf tools and libraries and packages to improve efficiency on development. If you're a company that really wants to innovate in HoloLens, you're generally having to build technologies from the ground up. In the case when we worked with CDM Smith, there weren't collaboration tools available for HoloLens. They had to put in the investment to work with us to build that out. So being an early innovator and an early adopter does come with an innovation tax. You are working and building tools and libraries that ultimately will be provided by an ecosystem as it matures and grows. And user experience is really still experimental. We try things all the time, and we learn from other agencies. We learn from Microsoft. We learn from independent developers who are trying new concepts in 2D and 3D design. Microsoft, just a few weeks ago at their Build conference, released concepts around their entire new lexicon for UI design called the Fluent Design Philosophy. And Fluent Design is going to have an impact on AR and VR and MR, and we'll be curious to see how that really comes into being from Microsoft.
Yeah, so the final takeaway is that one of the interesting things that we're seeing in this industry is that we're now building enterprise apps with skills that have come out of the gaming and entertaining area, which is an interesting shift. All that talent now has this new opportunity. And you know, I'm sure that everybody in this room has already experienced this, that you're basically hiring a lot of people with gaming talent or Hollywood talent. And we just see this as an opportunity, and I certainly encourage a lot of young adults to pursue that particular piece of the puzzle because, well, one of the things that we're hoping, which we don't know, we haven't confirmed that, we're hoping that there are certain gamers who are starting families and getting mortgages and are kind of, you know, not wanting necessarily to continue down that path for their entire lives. So we're excited that there actually is really good talent. In fact, one of our artists is actually a AAA game designer, and he has made the shift into enterprise.
Great, so thanks for listening. Sorry we're running a bit over. My apologies to the next speaker. We're downstairs on the expo floor from 10 to 3 today. We would love to have you come by and demo our medical app. And if you don't have time to stand in line, come around the backside. Michael and I will be sitting at the tables. Happy to chat with you. Happy to chat with you out in the hall before we have to run down and do demo duty. Give you a business card, and we're happy to chat after this conference is over. I know there's a lot of folks to network with, so feel free to reach out either here or later on. Really appreciate your time. You can reach us at objecttheory.com, Michael at objecttheory.com, Raven at objecttheory.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you.